Hey guys, welcome back to Gaming for the Grade, and great to have you back. Tonight we're playing Dying Light, The Beast. If you're not familiar with Dying Light, this is not the first in the series, but it's been a while since I've played, and I'm still trying to remember the controls, so if it goes horribly wrong, don't judge too much, cut me some slack, I'm a bit rusty, but we're taking a break, as you can tell from Fortnite. I have turned down the gore settings, so hopefully if you're a bit squeamish, it won't be too horrible for you. Oh, that was fun. But yeah, Dying Light, it's a bit of a zombie game. Big fan of zombie games, so I thought I'd do something that was a little bit more in my niche today, and hopefully you don't hate it. Why is that locked? So, in today's video, we're going to be looking at Literature Paper 2 content. Oh, hello, sir. And in that respect, we're going to talk specifically about Priestley's perspective, the things that influenced and shaped his experiences, and how they kind of informed his crafting of an Inspector Calls. Because while we get to talk about context in lesson, I think there's definitely more that we could do to more deeply understand the context that shapes Priestley's perspective. And if we can better understand the context and the things that influenced his life, then we will be better able... Not sure what the decoy is. Ah, there we go. Then obviously we'll be better able to make some meaningful comments about how Priestley's context kind of shaped his... Well, this was a mistake. Shaped his writing of the text. Oh, boy, oh. Rough. Oops. So, let's talk about Priestley's experience with the Great War first. Obviously, you'll probably have known from... Oh, for God's sake. From your context in lessons that he enlisted in the Great War at the ripe old age of 20 years. And that's probably where he first became properly disillusioned with the class system. And we know his experience growing up in Bradford, that he was very much so raised and brought up in a less capitalist sort of way. But it was his experience in the Great War that really made clear to him that the class system wasn't what he saw for his vision of England. So he talks about his experience of the Great War, and particularly, do this again, about how it was essentially slicing his whole generation into sausage meat, that he watched the officer class essentially die. Thank you. That he watched the officer class essentially serve up men like him as cannon fodder, and, you know, showing very little care or value for the life of lower class men. And if you're not sure what the officer class is, essentially they were your aristocratic elite. Trying to get rid of those guys. Really? None of the rest of you? Come on, man. Whoop. Not a fan. Two for one. So yeah, he watched this officer class essentially showing a lack of care or value for human life, particularly of the lower classes. Actually, he very much so thought that the officer class was treating lower class soldiers like they were essentially like vagrants, criminals, etc. And he really didn't appreciate that portrayal of men like him, and he thought it was a great waste of life. So the Great War is a period in which, like, the officer class is changing slightly. There's the expansion of the officer class, so they move from they move away from just the aristocratic elite to including more of the middle class who can be promoted to that officer class. And also there becomes a shift towards soldiers with actual military experience, which you might be sitting there going, well, why wouldn't they need military experience if they're going to be in the leadership class of the army? Well, that's a great question. But prior to the Great War, it really wasn't a requirement. Your education and name were essentially all that you needed. Come on, how do we get up here? Haha. So obviously Priestley was really critical of that. He felt that the officer class specialized in throwing men away for nothing. And of course, there's this idea of the gentlemanly leadership that he also criticizes, because there's not a lot of gentlemanly behavior in putting young men up to die. I'm not really keen to go down there. If we go this way. Now, as for the Second World War, I think Priestley saw it as a bit more of an opportunity for things to be kind of an improvement on where the Great War had failed. So, am I going to hurt myself if I jump down? No. So he really saw the Great War as a missed opportunity, that there were two directions for the country to take, that, the Bernard Shaws and the H.G. Wellses, those cranks as Mr. Burling calls them, presented an idea for a more civilized, more democratic England. However, that hope was lost in the Great War. And so when we come around to World War II, there certainly seems to be more of an opportunity for that reparation to take place. I'm going to go back in here. So he really believed that the Second World War was the People's War, that it was an opportunity for people to kind of take a stand for themselves, to give common folk a sense of justice and security, and really ensure that the country didn't go back to those Edwardian class ideals, and could create a fairer, better, more equal society for everybody. Get out of here. Stay down. Nope. Yeah, there we go. One more. Yep. So yeah, World War II is an opportunity for the country to come out as a nation and a community, and to kind of put away that idea of property and class and status being the predominant aims and goals of the day. Now, beyond that, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the specific choices that Priestley made that we can also consider in the context of the play. One of them being in the form and style choices that he's made, the simplicity of the plot, the language, and the ideas, and that coming back to the fact that he wanted to reach the widest possible audience. So not to alienate anybody with challenging motifs and ideas, not to isolate the text to people of a certain education or background, but to make the text as accessible to as broad of an audience as possible, so that obviously the message can have the widest reach possible. Should have followed the instruction. And the last thing that I wanted to talk about, the last thing I wanted to talk about was one other thing that he said about World War I. And it was a comment he made about his experience as a soldier on the battlefield, and how it wasn't the actual fighting that was the worst part. He actually talks about the worst part being let's see if we can sneak up on this one. The worst part being the noise. That terror arrives first through the ear is what he said. And of course he's talking about the cannon fire, the bullets, you know, all of those sounds, that auditory imagery of the war. But I actually wonder if we can't apply that to an inspector calls as well, because we think to the stage directions at the beginning of the play. The first moment of fear that we should expect the Burlings to feel is at the sharp ring of the front doorbell signaling the arrival of the inspector. And so that terror arriving first through the ear, you can't help but wonder if he kind of almost stole that idea in regards to the play, having that terror arriving through the ear of the ringing of the doorbell at the beginning of the play, and then again at the end when Priestley has the telephone ring sharply to signal obviously the cyclical nature of the plot and the Burlings' inability to escape the consequences of their actions. There was actually one more thing. And it was the idea that Priestley talked about the best being sorted out and then slaughtered during World War I. His kind of grief for watching the consequences of the Great War on his generation. And I can't help but wonder if there's a similar thread here with Eva Smith in her suicide. She really seems like the best of the characters. Sorry, I'm going to skip this. She truly seems like, Whoa! She truly seems like the best of the characters, right? She stands up for her fellow man, and wants to see them have a better outcome, right? She joins the strike against Burling's factory for higher wages. She refuses to marry Eric because he is not in love with her. So morally, she's a very sound character. And yet she pays the ultimate price. Because obviously she pays the price for the Burling's sins with her suicide. And so I can't help but wonder if Priestley has done that intentionally, to make that connection to, you know, his experience of World War I and how much he and men like him suffered. And that's a great time for this video to end, because I think this Reaper's day is about done. Beast mode enabled. Thanks for chiming in today. Hopefully this little bit of Priestley's perspective has been helpful for you. And it's going to make you a little bit more confident engaging with applying context to your analysis of an inspector calls. If you enjoyed today's video, don't be afraid to like and subscribe. We'll be happy to have you back to do more revision for Lit Paper 2, and as we go, language as well. Anyways, I'm checking out. Adios.